Thank you. Hi, how are you doing today?
Hello, Sarah. I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Just got to say that I'm still on a high from watching the film. I absolutely love this. Such a charming little film.
Oh, great.
Just wanted to
Wonderful.
that. Yeah, it was really, really lovely. What drew you to the project?
Well, a couple of things. When I first read the script and saw that it was based on a real story, that was really exciting to me. Because I think if you had made this up, no one would believe you. I mean, like, wait a minute, you can't play the lottery and automatically win and then share the money. That's crazy. So that was very exciting to me. And I think what you mentioned, that it's just so darn warm-hearted. It's uplifting. These are real human beings. It's small town America. You don't get to see much of small town America anymore. Everything is like, you know, action adventure and romance in the big city, and just normal Americans trying to get by, doing the best they can with what they have. You Brits are better at doing those kind of films than we are. But so I liked the warm-heartedness of the story as well. So I was just thrilled to be a part of it.
It's amazing. So, had you not known about Jerry and Marge's story beforehand?
I didn't know about the story, and then read the script, and then Googled them and read some articles, and was really taken with their story. I can't believe that actually happened, and it was it was so cool because they didn't cheat anybody, they didn't break any laws or any rules. They just figured something out. It was just kind of good old-fashioned American ingenuity, um, and I love that aspect.
Absolutely. I've never wished to have paid more attention in maths before than
I
watching this
know,
film.
I know, right? Exactly.
And the minute you come on screen, I absolutely love Bill's kind of chaotic energy that he brings to the
hmm
to the story. How did you get into a character like Bill?
You know, sometimes you have a character and you kind of like struggle, how am I going to play him? And you have to do some work and research and some transformation, and and really kind of try and figure things out, rehearse. Um, and then sometimes, like with Jerry and Marge, I just read this character. I was like, oh, I know who this guy is. I can play this guy, asleep with a blindfold on. Um, and so there wasn't any preparation or research or anything like that. It was like, oh, this guy's just going to be super fun. He can kind of do and say anything. And I was really excited to do that. And, this was really one of the very first strictly comedic roles that I've played since The Office. Um, and I was really excited to jump into just doing some comedy, and that was really fun too. And I just felt like he was in my wheelhouse.
Absolutely. I kind of relate to him most because he says yeah, he goes yeah every now and then, and I do that all the time. I'm like, yes, this is my character.
Yeah, yeah. And he's positive, he's a kind of like he's like a yes and person, say yes to life. And he gets this opportunity to go in on some lottery thing, doesn't even know what it is. He's in, and he wants in, and it works out well for him. So, I think we're always rooting for someone like that. We're
Yeah,
rooting for the
absolutely.
people, for the yay sayers.
Yeah, that's why I kind of love how Bill gets involved because he's just like, yeah, let's do it. There's no questions asked.
Yeah, indeed, indeed.
But what I do love is that I feel like Jerry and Marge kind of inspire Bill beyond the money, and he becomes a bit more of himself around them.
Yeah, I mean, he does definitely go through an arc where his he's a little stuck and his life's a bit broken at the top. And, by saying yes to this adventure and going along with Jerry and Marge, he kind of comes into his own and gains a confidence. And um, he's kind of a different guy at the end of the movie, in a really fun way.
Absolutely. And how is it working with Brian Cranston and Annette Bening at that little lovely relationship you guys and friendship you have at the core of this movie?
Well, Brian, I knew, I had met him a couple of times socially, but he actually directed an episode of The Office. That's how I really got to know Brian. And I mean, he's just such a terrific guy. And uh, that, so it was fun getting to play with him. And, he has a comedy background too. He was on Malcolm in the Middle for 8 years or something like that. So I knew he could improvise and, give back as good as he got. And Annette Bening, she's like an icon. I grew up watching Annette Bening films. I was in college when I saw Valmont and The Grifters, and um, I just loved her work. And she's just so warm and funny and charming, and it was an absolute delight. I wish I could. I know that's not very interesting. I wish I could. I wish there was some dirt I could dig up on working with them, but uh, that's it.
Personally, I find that more interesting when they're nice and they're lovely and good human beings all around.
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
And that really shows with the movie, because it is just about initially about a bunch of nice people doing nice things for their community.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think Brad Copeland, the screenwriter, did such a good job of fleshing out all of the characters and the ancillary characters, and even Bill, like giving him the divorce subplot and just the little journey that he had. And a lesser screenwriter would have just made him a simple comic relief and not much depth or complexity or story to the guy. But, Michael McKean's character, Larry Wilmore's character, all had interesting kind of backstories and um, just a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I just love how Bill's shop becomes the epicenter of all this action. It's
Hmm.
like this weird heist that's going on in the middle of this convenience store. How is it working with that set and that kind of energy?
Yeah, it was this really dilapidated Atlanta gas station um, that we dressed up, supposed to be Western Massachusetts. It was hot when we were shooting. It was well over 100 degrees, 90% humidity, and that was quite difficult. But I thought the production design and the costume design did an amazing job of, you know, uh, creating a world that everyone you felt like you've been there before. You know what that place is like, and it became an additional character in the film.
Absolutely. I mean, I've not spent much time in America, but it just does feel like this homage to small American life and small town American living, really. And that
Yeah,
kind of shop really, really brings that to life.
yeah, indeed. Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. And I feel like there might be a comment on how we treat old age as well within this movie. And we kind of like shove our retired people to be like, just go away now, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting theme in the film of like, what if there's old people that don't know what to do? They don't want to play golf or go boating, and just drink Mai Tais, because it's a really important chapter. I mean, you have so much, wisdom and knowledge and um, so much to give back. I think I think the whole concept of retirement in at least the American way is is bogus and ridiculous um, and needs to change. This idea that I'm just going to coast until I die, kind of like I'm just want to be comfortable and have a little fun before I keel over. Like, you've got 20 or 30 good years left. Like, dig in, like travel, learn a hobby, learn a language, give back, volunteer, um, give your savings to interesting projects, help rescue animals, uh,
Start a
be a
jazz
part of
festival.
something. What's that?
Start a jazz festival.
Start a jazz festival. Exactly. Play the lottery.
Play the
So,
lottery.
yeah, indeed.
Absolutely. And I feel like I love the contrast with the students, the kind of high flying Harvard, Yale students. And I put this line in my question that I was, they would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those meddling kids.
That's true. That's true. Every good movie, only the best movies have a little bit of Scooby-Doo in them. So, indeed.
Absolutely. And what was it like working with director David Frankel on this movie?
David was great. He was really open to what all the actors brought, and I think that's a really important aspect of directing. That you're open to improvisation and the direction that actors want to take things, and you cast it right, and kind of take your hands off the wheel and let them do what they do best. And he did that really well, and he kept just a really light tone, airy, breezy tone to it, which is hard to do, and he kept everyone in the same movie, which is also hard to do. And I think he did a terrific job. It was a pleasure working with him.
Amazing, and it really shows. And we touched on this before, but this is a real underdog story, and it feels like we like you said at the beginning of the interview, there's so many action blockbusters coming out right now. Why do you think we still keep coming back to the underdog stories like this, the warm-hearted ones?
Well, the underdog story of real Americans, warm-hearted stories, the Frank Capra kind of movies. This is the film industry was built on those. It wasn't built on superheroes running into skyscrapers. And it's a human story. It's relatable. And that's why this was one of those movies. This is, there's this horrible jargon in Hollywood where they talk about a 4-quadrant film, like children, youth, adults, and seniors. This is a 4-quadrant film that everyone can really enjoy. And those are pretty rare. This feels in a weird way like a little bit of a throwback in that sense.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm so utterly charmed by it that I really hope people go and see it and be heartwarmed in this kind of times of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So I've written down like 2 of my favorite scenes of Bill's, and I think that I Need a New Frog and the nacho sauce moment are particular highlights. What were your favorite scenes?
Wait, which one was your highlight?
The whole I Need a New Frog, and then the nacho sauce, which happens for like 1 second, but it's stuck in my brain for like the entire movie.
Yeah, that was great. Anything comedic bits having to do with nacho cheese is a pleasure. So I think it was fun. Getting a divorce, all the stuff with Bill and his wife was really a lot of fun, I think. And I love that subplot, even though it's just like 2 or 3 little scenes. That was a real joy to, and that's why I love that he's, Brad, the screenwriter, gave Bill some real kind of a backstory and some complexity, and some heft. And I think a lesser screenwriter would not have done that. So that was great.
Absolutely. And you play it so well. It's a really wonderful performance.
Thank you so much. It was really a lot of fun. I love this film. I can't wait for people to see it.
Me neither. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today talking about this lovely film. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. It was really nice talking to you. I'm glad you liked it.
Take care.
Okay, so long.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey!